I remember once my teacher in front of the entire class said that I was one of the most talented and gifted students she had ever met in her career. But then she added that I was also the laziest. And she was right. She had a point. Another teacher told me that God gave me something, but I shouldn't be so relaxed because if I don't use it, I'm gonna lose it soon. They probably thought that by making this kind of comments, they're gonna push me to reach my full potential. To be honest, I never really considered myself so exceptional. I just found a strange sense of pride in knowing that it took me less time to learn things that others spend lots of time mastering. So I think I love this idea of being a lazy genius. So before the age of 15, I was clinging to this identity, but then things started to change. And today I want to talk about how I went from being one of the laziest to becoming quite disciplined and self-motivated, to an extent that if my teachers met me now, they wouldn't even recognize me. As I said, everything started to change around the time when I was 15. At that time, I started writing poems. Yeah, that was the first thing I did somewhat consistently, and it paid off because eventually I got better at it. And my family loved them, so at first I did that just to impress them and to make them happy. But as time passed, I started to love the process. I found it deeply engaging, and it helped me reflect on the kind of person that I wanted to become. I've noticed this pattern repeatedly throughout my life. We often start doing things for an external reward, but over time we begin to enjoy them. Eventually the effort doesn't feel as difficult because the process itself becomes rewarding. In other words, extrinsic motivation, that is when you're driven by external rewards, can gradually turn into intrinsic motivation, where you do something simply because you enjoy it. This shift makes habits feel effortless and sustainable. That's what happened with learning languages. I started to learn languages because I wanted to use my time productively, but as some time passed, I fell in love with the process. Learning new words, understanding new concepts in different languages, and communicating with people. It was simply super enjoyable. As a result, now I can speak 5 languages, and I'm gonna keep learning not because of better career opportunities, just because I love it and it truly makes me feel alive. Then I discovered the piano. Actually, my brother had been playing the piano for a really long time. I just don't know why I noticed it only at that point. I wanted to give it a try. I tried it and I loved it. And I also had quite a fast progress, and the fact that my brother noticed it and praised me motivated me even more. And here's the most important part. At some point, I noticed that my identity was changing from a lazy, bold, careless teenager to someone who's always curious, hardworking, and ambitious. My family, and my older brother in particular, played a really important role in reinforcing this identity. He pushed me further. He told me, from now on, you need to tell me a new fact every single day, something new, doesn't matter what. And he was genuinely excited about the knowledge I was gaining. So I wanted to impress him even more. I read more and I studied more. So I embraced this new identity of a curious person. Then I wanted to add the part of being strong to my identity, because I wanted to challenge the stereotype of a weak nerd. So I started training. I want to prove that it's possible to be both educated, smart, and physically strong. The idea of challenging the status quo helped me stay consistent. I think I always wanted to challenge prevalent stereotypes and common ways of thinking. That's why probably I didn't like school. Looking back, I realized that this part of my story, the concept of transforming your identity, aligns perfectly with what James Clear explains in Atomic Habits, a book I only read later. Without even knowing it, I had already started applying his principle. This book emphasizes that a lasting change doesn't come from just setting goals, it comes from shifting your identity. Instead of saying, I want to get in shape, you start telling yourself, I'm a kind of person who trains consistently. Instead of saying, I want to read more, you start telling yourself, I'm a reader. By aligning your actions with your identity, change becomes natural and sustainable. This mindset might not work for everyone, but for me, it has been incredibly effective. Having people who support and believe in you is essential, but sometimes it's the challenges and doubts that truly push you to excel. I call it the dark motivation force. You might be fueled by the desire to prove that something is possible to yourself or prove others wrong, which in turn makes you more consistent. When I moved from the capital city to a village, many people from there believed that, well, that's it. It's impossible to build a career from there, it's impossible to improve, and so on and so forth. They thought that I would do nothing and I wouldn't be able to achieve anything. Yes, and honestly, there aren't many opportunities in a small village, but again, It was a challenge for me. And the challenge itself made me more determined. Before, when I was in the city, there were lots of opportunities to learn new things, lots of options. But as I said, I was lazy. I didn't take full advantage of those opportunities. But when I came to the village, I found myself in a situation where there was no one to help me. No easy access to resources, no shortcuts. I had to learn everything on my own. So I took advantage of what I had: internet, time, and my curiosity. I wanted to prove myself that it's possible to improve yourself and become better even in the most undesirable circumstances. And there was no one to push me. I still didn't care about the school, but I was all in about the things that interested me. My mindset was like, yeah, there's no gym, but I still can use my body weight to train. No language tutor, there are dozens of apps online. No piano tutor, YouTube is all I need. This mindset was really important because instead of focusing on the things that I didn't have, I started focusing on the opportunities that I did possess. Another instance was when I was watching a YouTube tutorial where the instructor said, you need at least 4 or 5 years of experience to learn this piece. At that moment, I had been playing the piano for maybe a year or maybe less. I could have easily accepted that and moved on. But something in me said, no, I'm going to give it a try and I'm going to prove that it's possible. And in the end, I did it. I used this force in many other instances and it always worked for me. It might be because of the way our brain reacts to challenges and difficulties. Andrew Huberman talks about this part of our brain which is called mid-cingulate cortex, which is directly related to willpower and motivation. This area gets activated when we push ourselves through difficult tasks or when we face obstacles. It helps us stay focused and keeps us going even when we feel like giving up. So challenges are great. They play a key role in training our brain's ability to persist and maintain self-control. Habit stacking is a simple yet a very powerful concept. It's when you take a habit that you do regularly and add something new on top of it. This works because it uses the momentum of your current routine, making new habits easier to integrate. For example, if you already brush your teeth every morning, you could do a short stretch right after it, or meditate for a minute. By linking a new habit to something that you do automatically, it becomes a seamless part of your day. A perfect example from my life was when I started stacking habits in a specific order. I would wake up, go outside for a sunlight, brush my teeth, and immediately after exercise. While exercising, I would listen to Spanish, and after that I would take a cold shower and start my lessons. These consecutive habits helped me stay on track because they were all linked together and it was really hard to forget or skip any of them. This approach made it easier to build consistency. It's not about making big changes, but about adding small, sustainable ones over time. You can also use habit stacking to break negative habits. For example, if you're trying to stop using your phone before bed, you could read a book right after brushing your teeth in the evening. These ideas won't change your life overnight, and it is nearly impossible to be disciplined all the time. But you need to trust that every step you take adds up, and you need to remember that all the efforts you make will pay off in the future. And as always, don't forget to be patient with yourself and enjoy the process.